of the books I read during lockdown is, in fact, a reread. It's Marcus Sedgwick, Blood Red Snow White. I found that during lockdown I had difficulties in actually concentrating, and I really needed something familiar. This book worked on many levels because already I knew I loved it, so that there's a comfort of rereading, but there's also the comfort of knowing that you're going to be pleased, you're going to get something good at the end. And also it definitely takes you away because it's a different time, a different place. Marcus Sedgwick is, his writing is so immersive that you immediately transported to the place. So the book talks about Arthur Ransom's time in Russia, during, before and during the revolution. It's in three parts. The first part is a Russian fairy tale. It has an atmosphere of fairy tale, the Peter's Tales of Russia. Lots of imagery, lots of beautiful images, and you can really see the fairy tale. You can see the tension coming. You can see the Russian family living in a fairy tale. And you can see also the dream of something new with Trotsky and Lenin. And you can really feel Russia. You can feel what's going to happen there. The second part is A Night in Moscow, I think, yes. And again, it's there you have the revolution, you have the tension, the fact that nobody trusted each other, the doubt. And again, it's the way he writes so well. You immerse in that, you feel the tension. You fear for the people. And then the full circle, again, we have the fairy tale ending. And it's almost a kind of a whole little world closing in a way. And that, again, makes you feel good about the book, about what you just read. One thing I love about this book, as I said, is the writing is very immersive. The structure is very cyclic, so you know exactly where you're going, and it's reassuring in some ways, despite the fact that it talks about very scary things. There's a lot of tension in that book. The plot is not really what drives the book. What drives the book is how it's done. It's the beauty of the language that is being used. Short chapters, concise language, beautiful. I would urge anybody to read this book if you haven't yet. Another book that took me away from the situation is When Stars Are Scattered. And I think this one worked on different levels. It's also put me away from the self-pity that you can feel during lockdown, and see that, well, you're not on your own, really. You're in a different place. It's a graphic novel. It's written by Victoria Jamieson, who also wrote Roller Girl and All's Fair. She took the story from Omar Mohammed, who is the protagonist in this story. So Omar was brought up in a refugee camp in Kenya. He's from Somalia, and he and his family had to leave Somalia for obvious reasons. And they left without their mother, so they are children on their own in a concentration camp. They've been looked after by another Somali woman, but she's not their mother. And it's the story of how Omar managed to get out of that situation through education. It's extremely well, I think it's well written, it's very well written. It's very moving because there is no self-pity in it. There is no, it tells the fact as they are. It is tough. And they say it is tough, it is boring, life is hard, there's food, but there is no poor me, why me, and that sort of things. So that makes you think a lot of how much hardship can people take. There are also side stories with some of the girls in the school, and you can see also the inequalities and how difficult it is to get out of that situation, how much luck plays, and how much the fact that you're a boy rather than a girl might make a difference. So there's a lot to think about and it's a quick read. It's a graphic novel, so but a lot to think about in a little time. And the third book is Patron Sense of Nothing by Randy Rebay. That was shortlisted for the Carnegie, so I was reading the Carnegie shortlist. It takes place in the Philippines, so again you're transported to a different place. Short chapters, a lot of dialogues, a lot of some letters in it. It's the story of Jay, who lives in the United States and is a typical American boy, but with Philippines origin, playing video games and that sort of things, and then receives a letter informing him that his cousin in the Philippines died, but there'll be no funeral, and the death is not being acknowledged by the family, and under no circumstances is he allowed to speak about it. And he feels a connection to that cousin because they wrote to each other for a while, and it felt like a real friend to him, more than just a family member, but there's close things. So he decides to go to the Philippines to reconnect with his roots and to investigate, to find out what happened. And there I discover all the murders that happened, people, the cleansing wars of the Philippines, and he rediscovers his family, the good, the bad, the ugly, and what is hidden. There's a lot about religion, about the culture there. And for me, it was a complete different world, something I didn't know very much about. And something that, I knew about the history of Philippines thanks to another author, thanks to Candy Gole, but that made me research what's going on in the Philippines now, and finding a completely different situation that I knew nothing about. So again, I would urge people to read that. It's quite an easy read, I think, but again, the words are easy, but the ideas, and it makes you think, because it is Libraries Week. So my first experience of public libraries is, in fact, the mobile library coming to my school. There was no public library where I'm from, and my family is not a family of readers, so they were not going to take me to the library at all. There was very few books in my house. So the mobile library coming to my school was a kind of a Narnia, opening to a different world. It was, what's going on? It was wonderful. And it's quite strange that my very first job in public library was precisely being a mobile library driver going to primary school. So that went full circle, and I loved that.